there is a specific miscalculation that narcissists make, not an occasional one, not a situational one that appears in specific circumstances and disappears when those circumstances change, a foundational one, a miscalculation that is built into the architecture of how the narcissist understands empaths, and that is, in the specific case of the healed empath, so completely wrong that it produces one of the most significant and most consequential surprises available in any human relational dynamic. The miscalculation is this: the narcissist, who has encountered empaths before, who has in many cases made a pattern of encountering empaths, targeting empaths, building their supply chains around the specific extraordinarily exploitable qualities that empaths bring to relationship, has developed a very specific model of what an empath is and how an empath works. A model built from experience, from the specific, repeated, consistently confirmed experience of encountering empaths in their unhealed state and finding, in that state, exactly what their operation requires. The warmth that gives without calculation. The perception that is accurate but not yet trusted enough to act on. The patience that extends grace past the point where grace is warranted. The fundamental orientation toward other people's potential that keeps the empath invested in the possibility of a better version of the person who is using them. The self-doubt that overrides the accurate seeing. The people-pleasing that maintains connection at the cost of self-respect. The narcissist has encountered this combination enough times that they have built a reliable operational model around it. They know what the empath does. They know how the empath responds to their specific tactics. They know the specific emotional frequencies that produce the maximum supply yield from an empathic target. They have, without exaggerating, become something approaching expert in the exploitation of unhealed empathic qualities. And then they encounter the healed empath, and everything they know is wrong. Welcome to Mind Vision. Today we are going into exactly what the healed empath does that the narcissist never expected. Not as a revenge fantasy. Not as the triumphant, drama-filled, confrontation-centered narrative that most content about narcissists and empaths defaults to. As the specific, psychologically precise, completely honest account of what happens when the narcissist's carefully constructed operational model meets the specific, fundamental, completely unprecedented reality of someone who used to fit that model and no longer does. Let's go in. The first thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is the specific quality of their seeing. Not seeing in general. The narcissist has encountered people who see through them before, skeptical people, analytically minded people, people who have heard about narcissism and who approach the narcissist with the specific, defensive, intellectually constructed suspicion of someone who has decided in advance that this person might be dangerous. The narcissist has learned to handle intellectual suspicion, has developed the specific, sophisticated, completely effective counter tactics for the person who is watching for narcissistic behavior with their analytical mind. The performed vulnerability that makes the suspicion seem cruel. The disarming charm that makes the caution feel excessive. The specific, subtle, expertly calibrated combination of warmth and self-deprecation that produces the specific response it was designed to produce in a skeptical but not yet fully committed observer. What the narcissist has not developed adequate counter tactics for is the seeing that is not intellectual. The healed empath does not see the narcissist primarily through analysis. They see them through the specific, body-level, completely involuntary quality of genuine empathic perception that has been refined by the healing process into something significantly more reliable and significantly more difficult to manipulate than anything the narcissist has encountered before. The healed empath feels the gap, not as a conclusion they have reached through deliberate investigation, as a physical sensation, the specific, unmistakable, completely immediate dissonance between the warmth being presented and the calculation underneath it, between the performed vulnerability and the absence of the genuine interior experience that real vulnerability requires, between the mirroring that looks like connection and the specific, slightly too perfect quality of something that has been calibrated rather than arising naturally. This seeing arrives in the healed empath before the narcissist has had adequate time to establish the initial connection that the entire subsequent operation depends on. The love bombing begins. The mirroring deploys. The performed warmth activates. And the healed empath feels it, not as suspicion, not as discomfort that could be explained away, but as the specific, physical, completely reliable signal of their extraordinarily refined perception saying this is not real. And the narcissist, whose entire operation was designed to work in the window of time between initial contact and the establishment of genuine emotional investment, finds that window significantly shorter than they are accustomed to, because the healed empath's perception is closing it from the inside, not through defensive resistance but through the specific, accurate, immediate seeing that leaves the performance of the love bombing with almost nothing to land on. The second thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is that they trust what they feel. This is the specific development that most completely dismantles the narcissist's primary operational tool, gaslighting. Because gaslighting, in its most fundamental form, depends on one thing above all others: the target's willingness to prioritize the narcissist's version of reality over their own felt sense of what is actually happening. The unhealed empath, for all their accuracy of perception, has a specific vulnerability that the narcissist is expert at exploiting. The perception arrives. The gap is felt. The something is wrong signal activates with its characteristic immediacy and its characteristic accuracy. And then the self-doubt. The specific, deeply embedded, often unconscious override of the accurate signal by the culturally conditioned, people-pleasing trained, repeatedly reinforced tendency to trust the other person's confident narrative over their own uncertain internal experience. Am I being too sensitive? Am I reading too much into this? Perhaps they are right and I am misinterpreting. Perhaps the signal is my anxiety rather than genuine perception. The gaslighting does not create this doubt. It exploits doubt that was already there. The narcissist's confident alternative narrative lands in the space that the self-doubt has already made available and fills it with the specific, relationship-preserving, supply-maintaining reframe that serves the narcissist's purposes and costs the unhealed empath their grip on their own reality. The healed empath has rebuilt their relationship with their own perception through the specific, sustained, experientially grounded process of trusting what they feel and watching it prove accurate again and again, until the trust is not a decision they make consciously but a quality of their relationship with their own interior experience that is simply present, stable, not requiring external confirmation to sustain itself. When the narcissist's gaslighting arrives, and it arrives early because the healed empath's responses are not producing the expected supply, and the narcissist's calibration immediately attempts to correct for this, it lands on completely different terrain than the narcissist is accustomed to. The healed empath receives the alternative narrative, considers it genuinely, because the healed empath is not defensive, not closed, not operating from the rigid suspicion of someone who has decided the narcissist is wrong before hearing them. They genuinely consider it, and then they return to what they actually felt, to the specific, body-level, completely reliable signal of their own perception. And they find that the alternative narrative does not, when honestly held against what they actually felt, produce the specific quality of genuine recognition that a true alternative explanation would produce. It produces the specific, unmistakable quality of something that is true in the sense that a well-constructed argument can be technically true without being accurate, and the healed empath trusts the perception over the argument. This is not intellectual, it is not analytical, it is the specific, embodied, experience-grounded self-trust that the healing built, and that the gaslighting has nothing adequate to work against. The third thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is the absence of the need to be liked. This is the specific development that removes the narcissist's most universally effective lever, because the need to be liked, the specific, deeply human, almost universally present desire to be received positively by the people we interact with, is the specific vulnerability that most of the narcissist's social tools are designed to exploit. The charm exploits it, producing a warmth that makes the target want to be liked in return, which makes them more accommodating. The approval withholding exploits it, producing an anxiety about the loss of the narcissist's regard that motivates the compliance that restores it. The idealization phase exploits it, making the target feel so exceptionally liked, the fear of losing that exceptional regard becomes one of the most powerful motivating forces in the dynamic. All of these tools require one thing to work. The target has to care, specifically, actively, in ways that can be activated and managed, about the narcissist's positive regard. The healed empath does not organize their behavior around the need for any specific person's positive regard. Not because they are indifferent to being liked. They are not indifferent. They are warm, they are genuine, they enjoy genuine connection and genuine warmth and the specific, mutual, completely real quality of being positively received by people who actually know them. But that enjoyment is organized around genuine connection rather than around the management of any particular person's approval. The narcissist's charm does not produce in the healed empath the specific, approval-seeking reciprocal warmth it is designed to produce. The healed empath can receive the charm, appreciate whatever is genuine in the human being offering it, and remain, not coldly, not defensively, but genuinely, in their own center. Without the specific activation of the approval-seeking mechanism that the charm was calibrated to trigger, The approval withholding does not produce the anxiety it was designed to produce, because the healed empath's sense of themselves is not located in the narcissist's regard for them. The withholding of the narcissist's approval does not create a hole in the healed empath's self, concept that needs to be filled by restoring the approval. It creates, at most, a mild and completely manageable discomfort at the interpersonal friction, alongside the specific, accurate, perception-based reading of what the withholding was actually designed to accomplish. The idealization does not produce the fear of loss it was designed to produce. Because the healed empath, who has experienced both genuine connection and its convincing imitation, can feel the specific, slightly too complete, slightly too calibrated quality of the idealization and does not become as invested in its continuation as the operation requires. The fourth thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is their specific relationship with silence. Not the empath's silence, the silence in the interaction. The specific, natural, completely unmanaged quality of silence that the healed empath is comfortable inhabiting in a way that most people are not. Most social interactions, and particularly the early stages of a narcissistic relationship, are managed through conversation. The narcissist is extraordinarily skilled at managing the conversational space, filling it with the specific information gathering, impression managing, supply generating content that serves the operation. They are skilled at this because most people experience conversational silence as a gap that needs to be filled, a social discomfort that produces the spontaneous, unguarded, often revealing verbal behavior that the narcissist's information gathering requires. The healed empath does not experience conversational silence as a gap that needs to be filled. They experience it as space, comfortable space, the specific, familiar, completely habitable quality of a moment in which nothing needs to be said, because the situation itself is sufficient. And in that comfortable silence, in the healed empath's complete, unmanaged, genuinely unhurried inhabiting of it, something happens that the narcissist's conversational management was not designed to account for. The conversational pressure reverses. The narcissist, who is accustomed to being the one who fills the space and therefore controls what the space is filled with, finds themselves in the specific, unusual, completely uncharacteristic position of being the one who feels the pressure to speak, to fill, to produce the content that will move the interaction forward in the direction they need it to move. And what they produce under that reversed pressure, the spontaneous, unguarded, no longer fully managed verbal behavior of someone who is filling a silence they did not expect to be filling, is significantly more revealing than anything they would have produced in the managed conversational space they are accustomed to controlling. The healed empath sits in the silence, receives what the silence produces, and learns things about the person across from them that the narcissist never intended to reveal. The fifth thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is the quality of their boundaries, not the existence of the boundaries. The narcissist is accustomed to encountering stated limits in the people they target. Stated limits are not particularly challenging for the narcissist's operation because stated limits have specific weaknesses that the operation is well equipped to exploit. The guilt trip that makes the limit feel cruel. The reframing that makes the limit feel excessive. The performed vulnerability that makes maintaining the limit feel like causing harm. What the narcissist has not been equipped to encounter is a limit that is not stated but inhabited. The healed empath's boundary, as we have discussed in previous episodes, is not a position they are holding through effort. It is an expression of self-knowledge so complete and so embodied that the behavior which would violate it simply does not fit, does not find the specific, compliance-producing, self-doubt exploiting, guilt-activating purchase that the narcissist's erosion tactics are designed to find. The guilt trip arrives and the healed empath feels the guilt. Because they always feel things, the healing did not change that, and does not act on it. Not through the white-knuckled effort of someone who is holding a line against significant internal pressure, through the specific, quiet, completely stable quality of someone whose internal experience of the guilt does not include the specific, action-compelling quality that the guilt trip was designed to produce. The reframe arrives and the healed empath considers it, genuinely, openly, with the specific quality of someone who is not defensive and is not closed, and finds that the reframe, however well constructed, does not produce the specific interior experience of genuine recognition that a true reframe would produce. The perception that the boundary is appropriate remains stable, unreachable by the reframe, simply there. The performed vulnerability arrives and the healed empath feels the warmth and the care and the genuine empathic response that genuine vulnerability would produce, and simultaneously feels, because the healing gave them the specific ability to feel both things simultaneously, the slight, unmistakable quality of something selected rather than expressed. And the boundary remains. The sixth thing narcissists never expect from a healed empath is perhaps the most significant and the most complete surprise of all. It is the thing that, more than any individual behavior or response or quality of the healed empath's engagement, makes the narcissist's complete operation structurally impossible to run at anything approaching full capacity. The healed empath is not trying to win. The narcissist's operation, in all its sophistication, is built around a specific assumption about human motivation that applies to virtually everyone they encounter. The assumption that the other person, at some level, in some way, is engaged in the dynamic with a stake in how it comes out. A desire for a specific outcome, the relationship to work, the connection to deepen, the narcissist to like them, the situation to resolve in their favor. A stake that can be identified, targeted, and used to generate the specific outcome, motivated behavior that the narcissist's operation requires. The healed empath has no stake in the narcissist's operations terms. They are not trying to make the relationship work at any cost. They are not trying to be liked by this specific person. They are not trying to win an argument, or prove a point, or restore a connection, or achieve any of the specific outcomes that give the narcissist's tactics something to work against. They are simply present, genuine, completely themselves, engaging with what is actually there rather than with the performance of what is there, responding from their own center rather than from any stake in the outcome that the narcissist is managing. And the operation, which requires a stake to work against, which requires a specific, identifiable, manageable motivation in the target that can be activated and directed toward the supply, generating behaviors the operation needs, finds in the healed empath nothing adequate to grip, not because the healed empath is closed, because the healed empath is free, and freedom, genuine interior, completely self-possessed freedom, is the one thing the narcissist's operation was never built to encounter. There is more, specific moment-by-moment, interaction level detail of what these six unexpected qualities produce in the actual texture of the narcissist, healed empath dynamic. What the narcissist does when each of their responses fails to produce the expected result. And the specific, quietly extraordinary outcome that the cumulative failure of the operation in the healed empath's presence eventually produces. That is where this conversation goes next. So we left off at free, that specific, quietly complete word. The healed empath's freedom, genuine, interior, completely self-possessed, as the one quality the narcissist's operation was never built to encounter. Not defensive freedom, not the closed, armored, nothing get in freedom of someone who has protected themselves by becoming unavailable. The specific, open, completely inhabitable freedom of someone who has no stake in the narcissist's terms and therefore nothing for the operation to grip. And I want to go into what happens in the actual moment texture of the dynamic when the narcissist's operation meets this freedom. What the narcissist does when each response fails, and what the cumulative failure produces. The first thing that happens when the narcissist's operation begins to fail against the healed empath is the escalation we have discussed in previous episodes. The increasing intensity of the tactics, the deployment of increasingly targeted versions of the usual tools in the hope that a higher intensity will produce what a lower intensity failed to produce. The charm increases, the performed vulnerability deepens. The love bombing becomes more specific, more personalized, more carefully calibrated to the particular frequencies that the narcissist's ongoing observation of the healed empath has identified as most likely to produce a response. And the healed empath receives all of it, with the full, genuine, completely present quality of someone who is actually there. They feel the increased intensity. They feel the specificity of the calibration, the specific quality of something that is being aimed rather than offered. And they remain warm, genuine, completely themselves, without the escalation producing the specific, increasingly invested quality of emotional engagement that the narcissist needs to have established before the operation can move to its next phase. The escalation fails, not dramatically, not through any explicit rejection or confrontation from the healed empath, simply through the absence of the response it was designed to produce. And then something happens that the narcissist has very limited experience within the context of their relational operations. They become uncertain. Not the performed uncertainty that narcissists sometimes deploy as a tactic. The specific, strategic vulnerability of appearing uncertain to produce a caregiving response in the target. Genuine uncertainty, the specific operational, completely unperformed uncertainty of someone whose model of how this kind of person works is failing to predict how this particular person is actually behaving. The healed empath does not behave the way the narcissist's model of empaths predicts. The warmth is there, but it is not producing dependency. The perception is there, but it is not being overridden by self-doubt. The care is there, but it is not activating the approval, seeking that the care was supposed to activate. The silence is there, and it is reversing the conversational pressure, rather than generating the unguarded disclosure it was supposed to generate. The model is failing, and the narcissist, whose operational confidence has always been built on the reliability of the model, begins to experience the specific, uncharacteristic, genuinely uncomfortable quality of not knowing what to do next. This disorientation is the most significant development in the entire dynamic, because the narcissist's operation runs on certainty, on the specific experience built, continuously confirmed certainty of someone who knows how people work and how to work people. The healed empath's existence disrupts this certainty at the foundational level, not by being different from people in ways that the narcissist can analyze and account for, by being themselves completely, genuinely, freely themselves, in ways that the narcissist model of human behavior cannot adequately capture, because the model was built from encounters with people who were not free in this specific way. And the uncertainty produces something that most people who have been in narcissistic relationships never get to witness. The narcissist, outside their zone of operational confidence, becomes something much closer to the actual unperformed, completely unmanaged version of themselves. Not the grandiose version, not the charming version, not the performed vulnerability version or the idealization version or any of the curated versions that the operation deploys in sequence toward the specific, supply-generating outcome it requires, the actual version, whatever that is for this particular narcissist. However developed or undeveloped the actual interior of the person is, however much or how little genuine human experience exists underneath the accumulated layers of the persona, the healed empath sees this. With the complete, accurate, completely non-judgmental quality of their perception, they see the actual person, not with the specific warmth-producing, hope-generating quality of seeing the potential that the empath's earlier, unhealed perception would have organized around, but with the complete, honest, clearly differentiated quality of seeing what is actually there rather than what could be there given the right conditions. And the healed empath makes a decision, not dramatically, not with confrontation or exposure or any of the visible, externally legible actions that most people imagine when they imagine someone successfully navigating a narcissistic dynamic. Simply, a quiet, completely self-respecting, entirely undramatic decision about how much of their presence this person is worth, and in what form that presence will continue to be available. And now the cinematic moment. Picture the healed empath and the narcissist. One final ordinary interaction. The operation has run its full sequence. Escalation, recalibration, deeper personalization, the deployment of increasingly targeted vulnerability, and has produced each time the same result. Nothing it was designed to produce. The narcissist is in the specific, uncharacteristic, completely genuine uncertainty of someone whose model has failed. The healed empath is in the specific, completely ordinary, entirely unhurried quality of someone who is simply present, genuine, themselves. The interaction ends, not with drama, with the specific, unremarkable, completely ordinary quality of a moment that concludes because it has run its natural course. The narcissist leaves the interaction carrying something they rarely carry, not the supply they came for, not the specific, operationally useful data about this person's vulnerabilities that the interaction was supposed to generate, something smaller and more uncomfortable and more honest than anything the operation typically produces. A question, the specific, private, genuinely unsettling question of why this person, who is warm and genuine and present and clearly capable of the kind of connection that produces supply in every other empathic person the narcissist has encountered, is simply not available to them in the way that the model predicts they should be. The narcissist will not arrive at the accurate answer. Not immediately. Probably not easily. The accurate answer requires a quality of honest self-examination that the narcissistic operation was specifically built to avoid. But the question will remain, quietly, in the specific, uncomfortable, cannot be entirely managed way that genuine encounters with something outside the model's capacity to predict always remain. And the healed empath will not be there to witness it. Because the healed empath has moved on, not with bitterness, not with the specific, ongoing investment in the narcissist's experience of the dynamic that the earlier, unhealed version would have maintained, with the specific, warm, completely self-directed quality of someone who gave this interaction the genuine presence it deserved and is now, simply, living their own life. In the specific, unhurried, completely self-possessed quality of a person who has no stake in the narcissist's operations terms, because they have something better to be invested in, themselves, their genuine relationships, their actual life, and the narcissist, significant only for the moment it took to recognize them, is already behind them. This has been Mind Vision. If this episode described something you have lived or something you are becoming, share it with someone who needs to know what a healed empath actually looks like from the inside of a narcissistic dynamic. Subscribe because every episode we go somewhere real. And remember, the narcissist never expected you to heal. And the most powerful thing you ever did was exactly that. See you next time.